I want to go over the how to change the crankshaft sensor on the Generation 1 Sebring Convertible, which is the 96 to 2000. And one of the things you probably need to do first, it makes it a lot simpler, is to remove the transmission control module, and that's what that is right here. We're looking at. There's a 8mm bolt in the center of the wiring harness. You just remove that. I'm using a socket here. It's already loose. And just pull out the wire. And there's two bolts, one here and one there on each side that comes out. You can see there's all the pins where it goes into the transmission control module. It's good to take this out because this gets in the way when you're trying to reach in for places. And I did remove the hose, but you don't really need to do that. It makes it a little bit simpler. It's you know, it depends on what the person wants to do. But one thing that's quite often has to be changed on the Chrysler car is the crankshaft position sensor, or otherwise known as the CPS. And I think it makes it a lot easier to get at it if you take this out, and you can see that's the pins on it and everything. Alright, and there's two bolts, so each one of those are all 8mm bolts. That's the socket size, and there's the bolt on the actual harness itself. And it's simple, but I think people have been very scared of doing this type of work for some reason, so I'm just going to put it out exactly what it is. Now this makes it easier to reach in to get at the crankshaft sensor, and those are the two bolts that are holding in the transmission control module. Now you should disconnect the battery before you take any of this stuff out, though, obviously. Just going over this augment something I said earlier. And we get on to the next one. This is the crankshaft sensor itself. I'm shining a light on it. It sits underneath the distributor, and I'm going to try to make this as clear as possible because I know people who are into these cars, they were going, well, how the heck do you change this thing? You know, it's not clear. This hole right here showing is where the distributor was. I took the distributor out, and it's right below. You don't need to take the distributor out to get at the crankshaft sensor, but it shows you exactly where it's located at. It's right below it, and that's it right there. Now there's a 10mm bolt right where I'm pointing to, and this sensor goes in this way. Okay, it goes in this way, and they use a paper gasket, which is sheared off as soon as you start the engine. It gives you the correct length. And now you can use a piece of like tape or something like that, as long as it's very, like, not very sticky tape. And there's also gaskets they sell for it, like spacer gaskets. But when you're changing this, you just put it in, you just put it up against the flywheel lightly, and it has that spacer gasket on it, and it shears off as soon as you start the engine. It gives you the proper air gap so it senses what's going on. It can, you know, do its thing. But it's probably best when you change this out. You don't have to take the distributor out or anything like that, but to go ahead and remove the transmission control module, and then this way you can get at that EGR tube, the silver EGR tube. There's 4 bolts. There's 2 bolts on the intake side, on the upper intake side, and there's 2 bolts on the EGR side. They're all 4 of them are 8mm. You take that tube off, and you have plenty of room. You should be able to get at this CPS sensor. It's not a big deal. Now the sensor itself, recommend you get the OEM sensors, and this is what it looks like. So when we're looking at that, this is into the transmission. This is the gasket that's on the end of it. There's the wiring harness where it's connected to, and that's a 10mm bolt. And if you get a replacement distributor, these are the other thing that most people have. You know, a lot of people like the car because it's convertible. I think that's what they're sticking around for. Cardone Select is probably the best one to get. That's I found out that many times aftermarket parts do not work very well with the Chrysler, but the Cardone Select, which is a brand new distributor that's 100% tested, that seems to work fine. And to take it out, basically, you have your wiring harness on the top. There's two things right here, this one and this one on the wiring harness. You take this off, and there's two bolts. Both of them are 12 millimeter, and there's two washers that and it pulls straight out. Sometimes it doesn't pull out that easily because it's been sitting in the car for such a long time that it seems like it's frozen in there, but it does come out. It's only two bolts holding it in, and that's it. But I think the most common thing you get wrong when these cars just die all of a sudden, it's electronic. It's either this thing or that thing, the Crankshaft Position Sensor, CPS, or the distributor. So not that difficult to change, but I think it's a big mystery as far as where exactly is it located, and it's located as I showed in the video here. So it's the way to get at it is to take out that transmission control module and the EGR tube, the silver tube that gets in the way. And I showed how you take out the transmission control module. The EGR tube is you'll be able to get out the two bolts that are attached to the EGR when you take out the transmission control module, and then you'll have enough room to get into installing this crankshaft sensor, which is a 10 millimeter bolt. I would use an OEM Chrysler one, though. I would not use aftermarket if you want the best results on this.